Hi guys, welcome. In this training I'm going to be talking about strength and power. This video might take about 10 to 15 minutes long, so just bear with me. The reason why I've put strength and power training together in one tutorial is I love the fundamentals of both styles of training, but in this video I'm going to show you how those two training adaptations are very similar to each other and how to program them either for yourself or for your clients. So first let's talk about strength. Strength, we would be typically talking about compound or multi-joint movements in a rep range of 1 to 5. Normally those movements would be a squat, a deadlift, arguably a bent over row, a bench press, or even possibly a heavy shoulder press like a military press. We're working in rep ranges of 1 to 5 because if we did more than 5 reps, then arguably the weight wouldn't be heavy enough for our sort of strength stimulus. The reason I put power together with the strength is for power training, such as a clean and press, some Olympic lift like a snatch. You wouldn't typically see in reps of 10, 15 unless it was like a CrossFit conditioning style circuit. If you look at an Olympic lifter, they would do one lift, so the max weight they could take off the floor to overhead, sort of like in a competition squat clean with a split jerk at the top. Now, again, the reason I put those two things together is because when we lift something heavy, or when we do something fast or explosive, even things like box jumps would technically, or plyometrics would technically come into the same region, but I'll explain that in a minute. The reason I put them together is when we're doing strength and power or something explosive, we're working type 2B muscle fibers. Now, the reason I think this is important is because I've seen a lot of people train over the years, and I've trained a lot of people over the years, and I feel this is one of the most overlooked areas of people's own personal development, or trainers when they're programming, mapping out programs for their clients. So if we don't add things like 1 rep max and compound, full body compound strength movements like squat, bench press, deadlift, which I'll call SBD going further on into the video just to save time, then the clients would very likely not have much measurability when it came to the outcome, or let's say reviewing their program. So like after 6 weeks you've been training someone, they might feel good, they might have gained a little bit of lean mass, but if they haven't gotten any stronger or changed their body composition through like being under those heavier loads in low rep ranges, let's say 3 to 5, for example, on back squat deadlift, then it's very unlikely that they would develop strength. Now, strength is now used a lot in older demographics, so people over the age of 40, 50, even 60 are now recommended to do multi-joint movements like deadlift, especially deadlift, squat, military press, obviously with very good form, solid core, and preferably under the safety of a personal trainer. So saying that, I'm going to give you some cues to go forward for the deadlift, and I'm using today a kettlebell as well for my power movements. The reason I like power movements also, again, if it's a heavy weight and we're doing really explosive work, then the weight should also be fairly heavy. If we have a light kettlebell for 8 kilogram kettlebell, and you're a fairly big guy or you're a well-trained person, the stimulus you're going to get from a light kettlebell swing is not very much. You're not going to get much return on that exercise, you see. Whereas if it was heavy, it was explosive, you had very good technique, the rewards would be a lot greater. You would very likely burn more calories. Again, body composition would definitely come into that. I'm pulling my shoulders back when I say that, because if someone has a very strong posture in a deadlift or a swing, you would very likely have this sort of drawn back upright posture, as opposed to you know, the shoulders hanging forward and that sort of kyphosis happening at the top of the spine. So again, measurability and programming. When I studied years ago, let's say 2010, we did what was called complex training. Now, complex training would classically be very simple strength and conditioning programming, where we would put something heavy and something explosive together, like in a superset. They adapted this style very well in CrossFit. So this could be literally anything from 5 heavy back squats, superset with a sprint on a power mill or a treadmill, or a deadlift and a kettlebell swing is one of my favorites, because we're getting that sort of double posterior chain work going on, and we're building fast twitch fiber recruitment in the glutes, hamstrings, core, back muscles, and this sort of thing. So one of the things I feel is hugely overlooked, especially in the deadlift, we'll go with the deadlift first, is lat engagement. Now, the lat is a very, very large muscle that plays a very unique role in the body. So the lat's actually attached to the humerus, sort of here under the armpit, which a lot of people don't realize, and goes right down to the lumbar region in the spine. So a huge, huge muscle. We're technically, the lat muscles are technically still a core muscle, because they do cross over our lower back. So, you know, when you say core training, a lot of people think sort of transverse abdominis, like the muscles in the front of the stomach, or even maybe the obliques. But when we talk about core, we're talking about 360 degrees, anywhere below the ribs, really, in my opinion. So when we're talking specifically about the deadlift, I believe a lot of people can have you know, a decent grip strength and this sort of thing, but they're not cueing the lats being pulled down and back. And they use this type of cue in Olympic lifting as well, where if you were to pull a heavy power clean off the floor, then you want relaxed arms and you want the shoulders to be back and set down, so your back's nice and braced and straight. We obviously don't want the shoulders to be forward and for you to just shrug the bar up, you know. So on the deadlift, one of my favorite warm-ups would be like a straight arm lat extension, as well as some, you know, glute hamstring work, like a hyperextension where we're tipping all the way forward. The reason for that is just to teach that lat engagement. I see a lot of people as well doing this straight arm lat pull down, sort of like this, whereas I teach it more upright and like this, where we want to sort of really draw the scapula back as if we're pinching the shoulder blades together. And when we do this at the base of our deadlift, before we lift up, we're just using leg drive, because everything else is already stabilized and braced from the bottom position. So I'm going to give you a couple of reps on the deadlift, pulling my shoulder blades back and down, and then just pushing the floor away with the legs, so you can see. And then I'll do an incorrect way, and you'll see what I mean by if I'm not braced in the upper back, what will happen. Basically, the bar's going to pull me forward like this. The legs will go up, the hips will go up, and then the body will sort of follow afterwards. Okay, so I'll show you the correct way first. Your hands want to be sort of just anywhere outside of the hips. It's up to you. Some conventional deadlifters like to be really tight and close, for obvious reasons. The tighter and the closer you are, the more stability you have. Some people, if I'm teaching someone a snatch for Olympic lifts or CrossFit, then of course your grip's going to be a lot wider. So when you receive the bar overhead, it's not going to be crazy high. It's going to be like just here. So the conventional deadlift first, I'm going to keep myself nice and tight, especially through the upper back. So I'm going to pull the bar nice and close to my legs. Now, we want to take the slack, take that click, take the slack out of the bar first. That means the back is braced and we're just ready to push straight up. You might be able to hear that from here. So, slack out and straight up. Now we want to hinge from the hip first as we're lowering the bar forward. Maintain a neutral spine in the neck. Now, I'm just going to let go and I'm going to re-engage the back there so you can see it. So, lats on, squeeze them hard together, and then push the floor away. Head's nice and straight. Hip hinge first, down slowly. And if you're cycling reps, and you keep the lat muscles on, it's going to be a lot easier to just drive up into your next set instead of letting go of the bar like this and then resetting the lats on each set. Now I'm going to do a set, 2 or 3 reps without that lat engagement so you can see the difference. So lats not on, arms are loose, I'm just going to jerk the bar off the floor. Oh my god. So you can see straight away how incredibly unsafe that is for a start. And if you were in a bad habit of pulling the bar off the floor, the likelihood of you maintaining that position at the top is very unlikely. If you can't position like this from the bottom, you're probably going to drop the shoulders going down as well instead of staying in this retracted position in the scapula. So, hi. So that's your deadlift tips. Now I'm just going to quickly run through a couple of kettlebell swings so you can see the same thing when I'm talking about power training and explosive movement, but it's a very similar a very similar movement to the deadlift where we're using a hip hinge, back, the core's braced. We're not as much in a retracted position at the top of the kettlebell swing. I'm going to do a Russian swing with a straight arm, but my point is when we mix strength with power, we're getting that sort of double benefit on the fast twitch fibers. So not only are your muscle bellies going to be strong and be able to react quickly, but they're going to be very well conditioned as well moving forward. Okay, so really nice to put this type of strength power training into your programming, maybe 3 times a week, you know, because obviously we need to recover from that as well, especially if it was really explosive and really quite heavy work. So if anyone's listening that's a personal trainer and you want to put this, start developing this type of programming with your clients, my recommendation would be 3 times a week and plan these out for at least 8 to 12 weeks. So what's going to happen is the client's going to be excited to see what's happening on week 5 and 6, and just keep a basic tracker of your squat, bench, deadlift, and any sort of power work you do, like power cleans, snatch, some kettlebell work or whatever. How many reps they can do explosively with a heavy weight. Obviously you want to be looking to increase that weight over time or increase the reps or the intensity over time. Yeah, so we'll go through the kettlebell swing quickly. One of the most important things we tend to run through with the kettlebell is a safe start position. Now, I see a lot of people pick up a kettlebell, and what they do is this: they'll pick it up and then they'll start their swing from here just by sort of dropping the knees and then going into a swing. But what we actually want to do, or the safest way to pick up a heavier kettlebell, is to stand away from it, almost at arm's length away, but maintaining a nice deep squat. We want to drag the kettlebell through the legs to our back swing, and then explode, push the hips up into the top position. Okay, I'll give you 3-4 reps, and then I'll quickly go over it. Okay, so hinge back with the hips, sit into like a nice deep squat. Arms are relaxed. Pull through, and nice big breath out at the top. I'll do one more. Very nice. Okay. I do like kettlebell swings. So, as you can imagine, massive benefits from being able to hinge back and explosively drive a nice heavy kettlebell, in front of you. Heart rate's up a tiny bit. So if you've done something heavy, then you've done something explosive sort of straight after, you're going to need a few minutes to recover. So we are getting cardiovascular benefits from that as well. So one of my favorite combos, one of my cues for this actually is when we tip forward, or when we hinge forward for a kettlebell swing, I like to look down at the floor, and then when I come up into full extension, I want to look straight forward. So with a lot of people, I use this sort of laser cue. Imagine you've got a laser straight in front, and then hinge back, it's at the floor, then it's up. So it's almost like a 45-degree reference point. So straight down and straight up, straight down and straight up, okay? I always take that nice solid breath out, almost like a punch at the top, where we're sort of driving the hips into extension. And also the way I like to think about the hips being really explosive on kettlebell swings, because I see a lot of people swing kettlebell and the hips are very loose at the top. They might even overextend at the top a little bit, which is not really ideal. We want to just be in neutral here. We don't want to go over. The same with the deadlift. We want to drive the hips into the bar like that without having any hyperextension in the spine. So the other reason I like to put those together is if we warmed up with an explosive kettlebell swing, and then I said to someone, okay, now do 3 sets of heavy deadlift, I would use that same cue of drive your hips into the bar, but not back. Okay, so very, very similar movement patterns, fantastic movement patterns for building strength in the glutes, the hamstrings, back, core muscles. Thank you guys so much for watching. I really appreciate it. Looking forward to the next video, and I'll see you guys soon. Thank you.